வித்யா குருபாபு சார் வந்துட்டாரா?
சார் வந்துட்டாங்க சார்.
இன்னும் ஜாயின் பண்ணல சார்.
இன்னும் ஜாயின் பண்ணல சார். வரணும் சார்.
ஆபீஸ்க்கு வந்துறப்ப.
Murali, one of you go and alert, na?
Okay, sir.
We heartily welcome Wing Commander Srikanth sir to this webinar. Welcome, sir.
Sir, thank you very much, sir, and good afternoon to one and all present on the screen and off the screen, sir.
Yeah, sir. Yeah, sir. It's our privilege and pleasure to have such a great personality from the Indian Air Force.
Thank you very much, sir. It's my pleasure, and I was only fortunate that as an youngster I got an opportunity to participate during Kargil operation. I was posted and based at Avantipur on the foothills of Srinagar, sir.
Right, sir. Oh.
We'll catch up when we continue.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure, sir. Welcome. Kindly bear with us, sir. We are making sure all the three guests are available.
No issues. Absolutely not.
Right. Oh.
I am in. Can you see me, Colonel Peter here? I'm in.
Yes, sir. Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir.
I'm
yes,
sorry,
sir. You are audible. You are audible. You are visible, sir. Both, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. Welcome, sir. Welcome to the webinar, sir.
Yeah, there was some connectivity issue.
Yes, sir. Myself, Kamraj, sir, from Indian Information Service. Myself, Line Director of Regional Outreach, Chennai, Tamil Nadu, Puducherry region.
Nice talking to you, sir.
Yes, sir. So, we are humbled by you, all your presence.
Peter, sir, very good afternoon, sir. Wing Commander Srikanth here.
Hi, sir. We spoke on the phone.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, let me just adjust a bit so that, I am comfortable. Yeah, right. I didn't get through on the...
Once everybody settles down, we can start the proceedings, sir.
Yes, sir. So,
Yes, sir.
is there a
Sir, 2 minutes, sir. Guru, sir, there is a problem. Join vendor, sir. Join vendor, sir.
Oh, great. Guru sir has joined, na?
Yes, join.
Yes, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much.
Guru Babu sir, Director.
There was some technical snag. My line was down, so I got it sorted out. It's such a privilege for me to be part of this discussion. Thank you so much.
We already have Wing Commander Srikanth sir and Colonel Sadar Peter sir. I think Major Madan sir also joined. Vidya?
Everyone.
Yes, sir. We have all the three esteemed guests with us. Guru Babu sir.
Such a pleasure to meet all of you over this virtual discussion, and I'm really looking forward to hearing you. Yeah, tell me when it starts.
Yeah. We are on to. ஆரம்பிச்சோம்.
ஓகே. அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். மத்திய அரசினுடைய தகவல் ஒலிபரப்பு அமைச்சகத்தின் கீழ் சென்னையில் செயல்பட்டு கொண்டிருக்கின்ற பத்திரிகை தகவல் அலுவலகமும் மண்டல மக்கள் தொடர்பு அலுவலகமும் இணைந்து இன்றைக்கு கார்கில் வெற்றி தினத்தை ஒட்டிய ஒரு எளிமையான கலந்துரையாடல் நிகழ்ச்சியை காணொலி மூலம் இணைந்து நடத்துகின்றன. இன்றைய நிகழ்ச்சி இப்போது இனிதே துவங்குகின்றது. இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியிலே ஓய்வு பெற்ற பாதுகாப்பு படையினுடைய முன்னாள் பொறுப்பாளர்கள், முக்கிய பதவியில் இருந்தவர்கள்,
3 பேர்கள் இந்த நிகழ்ச்சிகளை தங்களுடைய அனுபவங்களை நம்முடைய பகிர்ந்து கொள்ள வந்திருக்கின்றார்கள். 1999 இந்த கார்கில் கான்ஃப்ளிக்ட் நடந்தது. கிட்டத்தட்ட 21 ஆண்டுகள் முடிந்துவிட்டன. நான் 1999 அப்பயும் புதுச்சேரியில் தான் கள விளம்பர அதிகாரியாக இருந்தேன். இந்த கான்ஃப்ளிக்ட்டுக்கு அப்புறம் இங்கே இருக்கிற தேசிய மாணவர் படையினுடைய குரூப் கமாண்டரோடு சேர்ந்து நிறைய பள்ளிக்கூடங்களில் நாங்கள் இந்த தேசிய ஒருமைப்பாட்டை ஊக்குவிக்கக்கூடிய நிகழ்ச்சிகளை நிறைய அப்போது தொடர்ந்து நடத்தி கொண்டிருந்தோம். அந்த நினைவுகள் எல்லாம் இப்பொழுது மீண்டும் இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியின் மூலமாக நமக்கு தோன்றுகின்றன. 21 ஆண்டுகள் கழிந்த பிறகும் கூட நமக்கு ஸ்ரீநகருடைய அந்த கார்கிலும் சியாச்சினும் இன்னமும் மனசில் பசுமையாக அப்படியே இருந்து கொண்டிருக்கின்றன. பல்வேறு விதமான மாற்றங்கள் ஜம்மு காஷ்மீரில் ஜியாகிரபிக்கலாக பொலிட்டிக்கலாக மாறியிருந்தாலும் இந்த கார்கில் நினைவுகள் என்றுமே மாறாமல் இருந்து கொண்டிருக்கின்றன. இந்த நிகழ்ச்சிக்கு வருகை தந்திருக்கின்ற இராணுவத்தைச் சேர்ந்த முன்னாள் கர்னல் சதா பீட்டர் அவர்களை வருக வருக என்று அன்போடு வரவேற்கின்றேன். விமானப்படையினுடைய விங் கமாண்டர் ஏஆர் ஸ்ரீகாந்த் அவர்களையும் அன்போடு வரவேற்கின்றேன். இராணுவத்தைச் சேர்ந்த மேஜர் மதன் அவர்களையும் அன்போடு வரவேற்கின்றேன். இவர்கள் மூவரும் ஒவ்வொருவராக தங்களுடைய அனுபவங்களை எடுத்துரைப்பார்கள். இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியை இணைந்து நடத்தி கொண்டிருக்கின்ற பத்திரிகை தகவல் அலுவலகத்தினுடைய இயக்குனர் மரியாதைக்குரிய குருபாபு பலராமன் சார் அவர்கள் வந்திருக்கின்றார்கள். எங்களுடைய மண்டல மக்கள் தொடர்பு அலுவலகத்தினுடைய இணை இயக்குனர் காமராஜ் சார் அவர்கள் வந்திருக்கின்றார்கள். மற்ற இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியில் கலந்து கொண்டிருக்கின்ற அனைவரையும் வருக வருக என்று வரவேற்கின்றேன். இப்பொழுது நம்முடைய பிஏபியினுடைய இயக்குனர் அவர்களை அறிமுக உரை நிகழ்த்தி இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியினை துவக்கி வைக்குமாறு அன்போடு கேட்டுக்கொள்கிறேன்.
And good afternoon to all of you. My special greetings to Colonel Sada Peter, the Indian Army, who carries a rich experience, and we're really looking forward to hearing you, sir. And my greetings to Wing Commander Sri K.R. Srikanth and Major Madan from the Indian Army. I'm really looking forward to hearing all three of you. Can I please request you all to mute your mics, and when it's your turn to speak, then you can switch it on. Otherwise, what will happen is this voice will echo from your mic back onto the others also. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's such a privilege this morning to discuss about the Kargil Vijay Divas and saluting the brave hearts who stood for our country at the borders. And it's such a privilege, and I'm looking forward to hearing all three of you about your experiences. When I was going through the profile of each one of you, it gives me such a joy and a privilege to introduce all three of you to this colleagues of mine from the field, and it will be a privilege for us to hear you also. Colonel Sada Peter, who joined the Indian Army in 1988 and who served in Kargil also, and who was also the artillery wing of the army. Just a small connect with you, sir. Since my father-in-law, who lived up to the age of 92, he stayed with me. I had the privilege of taking care of him. Was Major John Amirthalingam, who was in the army, who served under General Chowdhury during his days. So I have heard a lot about the unconventional way of going straight from the barracks to the army. And another experience which I can probably recall was 2 years back. I had a privilege of taking the press team from our Tamil Nadu region to Jaisalmer, where we could see the War Museum. Because Tamil Nadu has not seen much of wars like people in the north and the borders, you know. So that was when we saw the valor of our Indian soldiers and the way our army was able to withstand the onslaught of this and the coming forward of the Pakistanis, and just a handful of people were able to stop the surging Pakistani army and defeated them. It was only because of our courage, not because of numbers or because of supremacy of the weapons they held. You know, it was only because of the courage It's such a privilege to have witnessed that from the close quarters when we went to Jaisalmer War Museum, when we went and saw that there. Sir, it's such a privilege to hear you and the medals and the commendation that you have received from Kargil operations. Also, almost 10 medals you have had in various duties of your career. And then to the Wing Commander Srikanth, it's such an honor to hear you also, sir. The connect with you, I can say, is I studied in 6 central schools across the country in my 12 years of schooling, and most of them was in central schools close to the airports. KV Tambaram, you can see the fighter planes zooming past our classrooms, and our teacher used to, we could not compete with that sound, the roaring sound of the engines, so we had to stop for these fighter jets to, which were soaring above our school, and then we had to listen. The discipline which we saw in the Air Force people there is very close to us. Many of my classmates later joined the NBA and then have become officers in the Indian Air Force and the Army and the Navy. It's such a privilege, and I'm so fortunate to see and to listen to you also, sir, about your experiences. And it will be a privilege for us. So you have served the Army for almost 25 glorious years, and coming from Madras University, and it will be a real privilege for us to listen to you, sir. And you have also received the gazette from our late President, Dr. Abdul Kalam, and I'm very sure your rich experience when you share will be a treat for each one of us, sir. And then we also look forward to hearing our another panelist of this discussion, Major Madan. I'm sure your time with the armed forces, and then your experiences would definitely help us, and we will really be able to remember the few things which we can probably carry on and imbibe from your experiences. You have a career from 2003 to 9, and you have also been on the guest lectures of various colleges, and then you're also an alumni of Madras University, and we really look forward to hearing you and inspire our own people. And you are very much part of the OTA, which is in Chennai, and we really look forward to hearing you, sir. And I'm sure all my colleagues here will remember these facts which you have, which you are going to present now, and it will be a great day for us to remember those brave hearts who stood the test of, the weather, and did everything possible to protect our country from Pakistan. And so it will be a privilege to hear you, sir, and over to all the dignitaries and my colleagues. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Shivakumar ji.
Sir, unmute பண்ணுங்க சிவகுமார் சார். சார் unmute பண்ணுங்க சார்.
Is not mute.
சார் ரொம்ப நன்றி சார். டைரக்டர் சார் ரொம்ப அருமையாக வந்திருந்த விருந்தினர்களை அறிமுகப்படுத்தியதோடு நாட்டுடைய பெருமைகளையும் ஒருங்கிணைத்து சொன்னார். அவருக்கு மிக்க நன்றி. அடுத்ததாக 3 விருந்தினர்களும் அவருடைய அனுபவங்களை பகிர்ந்து கொள்ள இருக்கின்றார்கள். முதலாவதாக இராணுவத்திலே கர்னலாக இருந்து பணியாற்றி ஓய்வு பெற்று இப்போது அசோக் லேலண்ட் நிறுவனத்திலே சீஃப் செக்யூரிட்டி ஆபீசராக இருக்கின்ற கர்னல் சதா பீட்டர் அவர்கள் தங்களுடைய அனுபவங்களையும் நமக்கான அறிவுரைகளையும் ஒரு 10 நிமிடங்கள் இப்பொழுது நமக்கு வழங்குவார்கள். அவர்களை அன்போடு அழைக்கின்றேன். கர்னல் சதா பீட்டர்.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Am I audible?
Yes.
Can you see me, sir? Because
Very much.
okay. It's a great pleasure. I will try speak in English and in Tamil. I'm not very comfortable because most of my schooling was up north because my father himself was an Air Force officer. But nevertheless, I shall try wherever என்னால பேச முடியுமோ தமிழில் நான் பேசுகிறேன். So, just before I start, quickly, we amongst the 3 speakers did try and put up some sort of a structure in what we would like to get. So I will briefly touch upon, I'm sure all of you know, but just for those who are not very clued up or who need to be introduced, I will start the history of J&K from 47. In a couple of minutes, I will bring that history from 47 till 99 and what is the present day. And then I would gently, in between, tell, Major Madan to touch upon the terrain, which is very important. He will speak for about a few minutes on the terrain, because unless we understand the terrain, it is difficult for us to, to understand the flow of the operation. And then I will generally talk about the incursion, the broad incursions, and how the battle started. And then I will come to the main part, which won the tide or turned the tide towards us. That is the firepower support given by the artillery and the air force. When it comes to the air force, I will request the wing command to take on, uh, and then we will cover some instances. Like, I would like to give a particular experience of one particular battle when, as an anchor OP, I was given 44 guns to rip apart one particular formation. An attack which was being counterattack which was being trying to lodge in the Mandola Ring, and then the effort of casualty evacuation by the Army Aviation, and then we can come into the sum up. Is this okay, sir?
Fine, sir.
Is this flow okay, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So, for all the viewers, I see about 35 people. A very good afternoon to all of you, and my special thanks to the officers in the ministry and those who have put up this meeting, this webinar in a very short time frame. So, going back to 1947, when the Radcliffe line was being defined, that is, where they wanted to actually have the division between Pakistan and India. Broadly, the Britishers left one part as India, East Pakistan, and Pakistan was to be Pakistan. And there was an issue with Kashmir because Maharaja, you know, between talks, initially they almost let it to him to take an independent choice. But he had strong to the year, and he knew that eventually Pakistan would use the northwest frontier tribals and some militia and usurp and take over Kashmir. So sometime in September, October of 1947, he requested India to help with troops. So troops were sent, but then by the ground action had started, and the Pakistani regulars, along with tribals and some militia from there, they moved up to Skardu, Gilgit, and almost even came up to the Srinagar airport, because their agenda was very clear that they had to take Kashmir at all costs. So then the first battle was fought, very valiantly fought by Indian Army, but we must all understand that it was a nascent young army, just tired after the Second World War, just being in the process of being taken over by the Britishers. Units were being revamped, and so there was a lot of difficulty. In fact, those the wing commander would agree with me. Those daring landings on the DC Dakota aircraft in Leh was attempted at that point in time. But 48 was an inconclusive battle. 30% of the territory of Kashmir turned to be the Cape, that is, became the occupied Kashmir. They call it Azad Kashmir, we call it POK. And I think there was an accord signed sometime in 48 in Lahore, where that line was supposed, deemed to be the ceasefire line then. But that was only on paper, because the agenda of the Pakistani was very clear. Time and again, they did little intrusions, and they always tried to upset the apple cart. 65, they tried once again, but again of no avail. We pushed them back. 71 was a masterstroke for us, because we won the war, and Bangladesh was born, thereby severing Pakistan into two pieces, which hurt them further, and they took it upon them that, somehow they should have Castile as part of it. But for a few years, there was a little lull in the terrorism or whatever it is. So those were a little, say, relatively peaceful years. But in the 90s, it started. It started with the first attack on a few Air Force officers who I think were just going marketing and killings. And then the Rashtriya Rifles was formed. Now we have about 60 odd battalions, well trained, entrenched for the past 30 years in CI ops, and also regular army units sort of going into their tenure to do various operations in the valley. Then, as this continued by the early, what do you call it, as by 95, 96, it was peaking, but we were also under tremendous pressure. There was a lot of infiltration, a lot of killings, a lot of loss of life, but it was, held at bay. And then sometime in 98, Musharraf had this beautiful idea, which on one side they were trying to have this confidence building measures, and on the other side they were very clearly working out a plan. Uh, After we cross Sonamarg, as you climb up towards the higher regions to high altitude, after the Zozila Pass, right from Matai, Pandras, Dras, Asgam, Kaksar, this area is it's about at 10,000 feet, and I think he will cover it, but I'll just very quickly, the terrain will be covered by the major after this. Extremely cold and terrible, untenable in winters because of temperatures minus 30, minus 40, and I think sometime in 98, 95, Dras touched minus 65. So it is physically impossible to hold force either side. So in the Shimla Accord of 72, there was a mutual agreement that during the winter we would vacate the post. Now, Musharraf's idea was very clear. What he aimed was, he knew that if he could get control of the highway 1 Alpha, which is the only link, solid link to Ladakh, where all the winter supply stocking, both for Leh Ladakh and for the military, is done effectively by controlling the road, he would bring India to the negotiating table, and then he could take it to the UN or to the world and then try and ask for, take it forward for Kashmir. So in 98, they quietly, sort of started moving into our positions, and they came and took our post. We were, as per protocol, going in the time which was designated, and then what happened was Kargil. But sadly, shockingly for them, they thought that they would easily win it, but it was brute force. It was almost like we used a sledgehammer on a few ants. That is the kind of the volume of firepower and the ferocity of the counter-attacks by the Indian Army, but not at one time crossing the line of control or not going into their territory. And that is how we took Kargil. So I can talk of the artillery battles, and I will talk of where all the incursions took place. But before that, briefly, I would request Major Madan to, in a few minutes, cover the terrain for the benefit of our people, so that they are clear as to what was the setting and what were the kind of difficulties the ground troops and even aviation. I'm a pilot also, though I'm an army officer. The limitations of high altitude flying for helicopters, for logistics, and that will be covered by the wing commander. But you please touch the terrain. Over to Major Madan.
Jain sir, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. We, sir, spoke about the background of Indo-Pak relation and what has happened in the past, and subsequently what led to Kargil. So coming to the terrain, the average altitude which we fought was around 50,000 feet above sea level, which means, just to give a comparison, if you take a domestic flight or any flight, passenger flight, and if you feel the pressure of air holding up your ear, So that pressure is around 5,000 feet. So when you travel, the aircraft generally they maintain a pressure of around 5,000 feet. Now we are talking about an area where the pressure is around 16,000 feet above sea level, which is the average height. So 16,000 feet means you have to just imagine yourself when you travel in the flight, you flight la pogumbodhu or car adicha mari irukum into 3 madangu 4 madangu. That's the kind of fight we fought this war. Second, because we were taken by a surprise, this was not a planned conflict which we anticipated. We didn't have those modern winter clothing we have. Troops were wearing a bare minimal cloth to manage the temperature. The temperature in Kargil, Dras, Batalik and beyond up to the south of Siachen ranges anywhere between -15 to as high as -45. So -15 is the kind of freezing temperature which in civil we used to freeze and store ice creams. So that's the kind of temperature we are talking about, and we don't have that clothing. நம்ம அந்த குளிரை தாங்குற அளவுக்கு நம்ம கிட்ட வந்து அந்த மாடர்ன் எக்யூப்மெண்ட்ஸ் அன்னைக்கு இல்லை. இது ஒரு இஷ்யூ. மூணாவது எடுத்தீங்க டெரெயின்லனா நீங்க ஆல்டிடியூட் மேலே போக 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 உங்களோட ஆக்சிஜன் லெவல் கம்மியாயிட்டே வரும். அதாவது இப்போ நான் சென்னையில் இல்லை ஒரு நார்மல் பிளைன் ஏரியா மும்பை, புனே, சென்னை, பெங்களூர் இங்கே நான் வந்து சுவாசிக்கும் போது the amount of oxygen which I take in during one breath of mine, for example, if it is 10, if you go to 16,000 feet above sea level, the amount of oxygen which you can take in will be only 2. If I put a scale, it's only 2. So you have to breathe more and more to have the same amount of oxygen. So இதனால என்ன what happens, தமிழ் கொஞ்சம் மிக்ஸ் பண்ணி சொல்றேன். இதனால என்ன ஆகும்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, first and foremost, a soldier or anybody who goes to that place and that altitude undergoes short-term memory loss. It has nothing to do with how fit you are. It's an altitude sickness. Short-term memory loss is number one. They also have some serious ones called pulmonary edema. Your veins in the pulmonary veins which goes to your brains, it swells. So sometimes you will have brain hemorrhage as well. So that is number 2. Number 3, because of the prolonged cold exposure, you will have frost bites. Your fingers, this area goes numb. Your ears goes numb. Your eyelids goes numb. எல்லாமே மறந்து போயிடும். லிட்டரலாக உங்கள் ஃப்ரிட்ஜில் வச்சுருந்த மாதிரி இருக்கும். அதே மாதிரி உங்கள் கால், ஃபிங்கர்ஸ் இந்த மாதிரி இடம்லாம் வந்து உங்களுக்கு ஃப்ரோசன் இதில் இருக்கும். இதுக்கப்புறம் ஒரு முக்கியமான விஷயம் நம்ம எடுத்தோம் அப்படின்னா, அந்த ஹைட்டில் நம்ம நடந்து மேலே போகும்போது ஜஸ்ட் இமேஜின் பண்ணி பாருங்கள், ஒரு சோல்ஜரோட பேட்டில் லோட், ஃபுல் ஃப்ளெஜ்டு பேட்டில் லோட், என்னோட வெப்பன், என்னோட அம்யூனிஷன், என்னோட கையெறி குண்டு, என்னோட சாப்பாடு, என்னோட மெடிக்கல் எமர்ஜென்சி கிட் இதெல்லாம் சேர்த்து என்னோட ஃபுல் க்ளோத்திங்கோட சேர்த்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு 25 kgs ஆவரேஜ் வந்து ஒரு சோல்ஜரோட பேட்டில் லோடு வரும். ஸோ a soldier with 20 kgs of battle load, braving all these constraints of weather, terrain, altitude, sickness, underpreparedness in terms of weapons and equipments, he has to go up from 14,000 feet to as high as 18,000 to 19,000 feet and then fight an enemy. இப்போ நம்மளோட எதிரி எங்கே இருக்காரு அப்படின்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா அவன் மேலே இருக்காரு. ஸோ மேலே இருந்தால் ஒரு கள்ளத்துக்கு கீழே போட்டாலே வந்து நம்மளை ஹர்ட் பண்ணணும். இதுதான் ஒரு உண்மையான சினாரி. ஸோ இப்படி ஒரு இடத்துல நம்ம இன்னைக்கு சில பேர் நம்ம நார்மல் லைஃப்லேயே பாருங்கள், நம்ம நிறைய விஷயத்தால நம்ம கஷ்டம்னு சொல்லுவோம். We have a lot of, we assume that, we undergo a lot of pressure, we call it as difficulties. I'm booking a cab, I'm not getting a cab, I'm out in open, I'm getting wet. So imagine that temperature, and the mission which was given was against a formidable enemy who is sitting occupying the heights. And fourth major constraint, we don't have much of intelligence input, what kind of things they have. And the major issue we had was our infantry weapon, which is a single loading rifle. We call it as a 7-point system SLR, single loading rifle, self-loading rifle. We are moving into DRDO's 5.56 INSAS semi-automatic weapon. So my weapon is also new. The SLRs are not firing there. You fire பண்ணும்போது the finger is all going down. So this is the kind of terrain which we fought. கார்கில்ல வந்து அந்த வீரர்களோட வீரம் வந்து நம்ம விவரிக்கவே முடியாது. அது அங்கேருந்து நம்ம பார்த்துருந்தா தான் வந்து அதோட விஷயம் நான் என்ன சொல்ல போறேன்னு தெரியும். we try to explain what kind of hardship which we are. As I always used to say, in this particular war, everything was against us. The weather was against us. The enemy was against us. Our preparedness was against us. The terrain was against us. There are only two things which were with us: the will to fight of the soldier and the God's grace. So I sum it up about the terrain.
So some units were sent, patrols to check in. That was the time we were to go and occupy our own post. When that Kutal, what is that, a group of our people from Fort Jat, Saurabh Kalia was the officer. That patrol was ambushed. They were taken alive. They were subjected to terrible torture and killed in a very, very merciless manner. And every major ridge line there was occupied by Northern Light Infantry, about 30 to 35 people. So in all, about almost 1,000 fellows were sitting all across from Mashko until Chor Batla in different valleys, fully armed, fully prepared. And then what Pakistan did was they brought their artillery observation officers onto these lines. They put their guns within range of the national highway. And as any convoy would try to go and move across to Ladakh, they would shell the convoy, shell it so badly, and they shelled the daylights out of the. That is the time it became a national issue, an issue of great, prestige for us, and all hell broke loose. This was sometime in May, so some kind of damage assessment was being done, and the commanders felt that one division cannot do anything. So immediately, 8th Mountain Division, which was in Srinagar doing the insurgency operations, was quickly moved up to this location, that is the area I'm talking from Zojila Pass until Taksar. And 3 Division, which was in location, was looking after the places from Taksar and beyond till Chor Batu. So we had 2 divisions immediately, and they realized very early that the artillery which they had was less, because they had between the 2 divisions just about, I think, some 8 to 10 regiments. This was doubled. You almost had 20, 25 artillery regiments. Each regiment has got 3 fire units. We call a fire unit as battery. It's got 6 guns. Okay, that means we had about 60, 65 fire units. That is, in terms of guns, if you say, we had almost 300 guns, a mixture of Bofors, of medium, of Indian field gun, of light field gun, of heavy mortars, and 1 battery of the multi-barrel rocket launcher, which I commanded, which was moved from Delhi. So, in fact, I think I was the battery which moved the farthest, 1,100 kilometers. I moved from 23rd of May, we started in Delhi, and by the 1st of June, we were in the area of operations. So, now not going into too many details, because war is complicated, and we will very, very briefly see that we had to bring the tide to our side. And there were 3 things which were to be done. One is to hammer the daylight out of him, break his resolve, and also take back immediately the heights which were 5140, Tiger Hill, Tolole, and 5297. These 4 were in direct observation of the road. So we, at all costs, before the end of June, had to take back these bridges so that we could put our people. And then the target less, and the steep, the climb is so much, and you're not acclimatized, then probably you might have to multiply this factor by another 25%. So eventually you needed 1,200, 1,300 fellows to take a post of 100 people. And the incursion was almost 900 to 1,000. That means mathematically, if you went, you needed 12,000, 13,000 troops, only infantry, to take all these posts. But this mathematics was reduced greatly because of the firepower, the kind of firepower we used, and that I will tell you subsequently. So the immediate idea was to take back these features. So the commander there, the artillery commander, just a minute please.
Sir will rejoin now. Very soon.
சார் இருக்குல்ல இந்த மாதிரி போயிட்டு வரேன் வீட்டு சார் போய் பார்க்கணும் ஜெய் சார் கூப்பிட்டு அவங்க பார்க்கணுங்களா
Virtual meeting is new concept for many of us, and we're slowly getting used to it.
Sir, am I visible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, there was some interruption. So so the immediate requirement was to take these three features. So the commander there, Brigadier Lakhvinder Singh, he was known as the Beast of Dras, a fantastic artillery officer, a thoroughbred gunner officer, and he said, let's take them head on. And he brought in some very, very innovative kind of things which we never have practiced. In fact, if I can step out and then tell you a little bit of technicality, the equipment which I had, that is the multi-barrel rocket launchers, the range tables were only computed to 12,000 feet. Okay, because Russians, they never planned to have this weapon to fight at an altitude of 12,000 and 14,000. So we had to do some extrapolation and work out a data to, sort of make it accurate. Thank you. Hello. Yeah, can I? Hello.
Well, Murugan, can you put on your microphone, please?
Yeah. So methods like sweep and search, mass fire distribution technique, first salvo effectiveness, direct attack, that is basically artillery guns are used in the indirect mode. You can fire at 20 kilometers, 25 kilometers, where the gun detachment does not see the target. But since we had our gun position just 5-6 kilometers and we could look at the face, we started using them in direct firing role, which was very, very effective. And we had some very, very professional gunners whose aim was so good that, once they ranged on and they could get the ascent, they just bombard, flush it, the daylights out of it. In fact, unofficially, the kind of artillery bombing on Golani was almost 38,000 rounds of artillery was used to pulverize that thing. And we had something known as a 100-gun concept. That is, 100 guns would be trained on one particular target, a mixture of field, of medium, of Bofors, of artillery, of rocket launchers, variety of ammunition. Imagine you're firing air burst, you're firing smoke, and you're firing deep penetration. You're firing on charge super. It would just take the daylights out of the enemy. This kind of methods were used, brutal methods. And Tolling was taken, Tiger Hill was taken. It was all because of fire support and the accurate registration of targets by artillery. In fact, when I moved for Kargil, just before that, in the artillery, we have a special role as pilots, air observation force. So after 3 years of service, I was lucky to go and train with the Air Force, become a pilot. I was a helicopter pilot. I flew for 6.5, 7 years till 99, 98. And when my flying deputation was over, I came back to my regiment. And that was the time in Delhi when I was going to settle down, get my wife back from South. She just delivered a baby boy and wanting to set up the house, the call for battle came. And there were two things in my mind with this. One is the fear of your personal safety, but more than that, the fear was I had to prove to my regiment and to my men that I was worth it, and the kind of confidence and the trust they had in a 33-year-old young major to lead the team from Delhi, 1,000 kilometers, carry deadly equipment, 4,000 rockets. I could not fail them. So I was praying to God that God, whatever happens, give me the support so that I sort of, Madan, I think you need to put off your mic.
Sorry, sir, I lost out, sir. I missed out.
Okay, you need.
Sir, I couldn't hear you, sir.
Sir, you unmute your mic, sir. Sir, you unmute your mic, sir.
Yeah, am I audible
Yeah,
now?
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so done. So quickly, I'll tell you two instances of battle. When Tolaling was taken, I was also made to climb up a post across Tolaling at 13,800 feet because we were expecting a counter attack. The counter attack is once you take up something, the enemy tries to counter attack and take back that position. So since I was an experienced air observation post pilot and a very good OP, I was made an anchor OP and I was given dedicated 40 fire units, 40 guns to be, at my disposal.
மேடம் மேல இருக்க எல்லாருமே அந்த இது ரூட்டிங் ஜாயின்
Who's somebody
பண்ணுவாங்க
put out the mic?
இல்ல இருக்கும் அதுக்கு
Hello. I think field publicity. Yeah. Now, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yeah. So when the counterattack, they were planning a counterattack on Tolaling, and I was alerted, and I was said that there was one eastern spur from where they were trying to bring in reinforcements to, which was almost impossible for them, but they definitely were trying for it. So I was at a vantage position at about 4 kilometers from this area, very clearly visible with our binoculars and with our magnifiers. So I was given almost 40 guns, that is as dedicated to me to disrupt this attack. So I used airburst, I used smoke, and I used high explosive like penetration, and for an hour or so I fired the daylights out of them, and the counterattack was broken. This was one beautiful incident. And the second part was after Tolaling and after Tiger Hill was taken, the forces needed to be concentrated towards Kargil and further beyond, because Jubar Hill was to be taken back, and one Bihar was tasked to take Jubar Hill because that was the ridge line. Once that was taken, then any incursion from Khalubar or Chor Batla area could be stopped. So in the night, I suddenly got orders to move 3 launchers from Kargil, that is from Dras to Kargil, which is a distance of 45 kilometers. Now, never in our training have we moved armed and loaded launchers because of safety restrictions and also because of the fatigue on the launchers. Because once you load 40 launchers on truck, you're adding another 2.5 tons weight to it. But the time was very less, so safety had to be, put aside to a certain extent, and I took the risk of moving loaded launches on the road, and I reached early morning around first flight at 5 o'clock on the 28th of June near the bridge near Kargil, and quickly I was met by the brigade major there of the Fire Direction Center. I was just given the coordinates, that is at a pass, Hamotingla Pass, at 13,000 feet, from where I had to launch a rocket salvo on Jubar before our own infantry went. So that was one of those most terrible nights when I had to move about 35 kilometers on a winding track in the night, taking loaded launchers and one line of replenishment. But God was there. So like Madan said, God was on the side of the good guys. Everything was against us, but God was with us. So I could move in, and we fired 296 rockets on Jubar Hill where the guy was sitting before the attack, before the actual fire plan. And I think when one Bihar walked in, there were only about 50 odd dead bodies on the post. That was the kind of, sheer firepower we got. So broadly summing up, the Kargil battle was fought with a lot of ferocity. We inducted tremendous amount of troops, even to the extent of more than required. But it was a moment of national pride, and nothing was less. No cost was less. So everything was justified. because to the nation, to the world, and to Pakistan, we had to, prove a point and tell them, don't mess with us. We will not attack. We will never be attacking. But if you attack us, should you try to sort of try and touch our territorial integrity, only death will be given to you. So that message was driven home. And one point before I go and give it over to the wing commander, uh, like we have this averages of 9:1. The world over studies, there is some study, they say that in mountains, the death to the ratio between the defender and captor is 1:6. That means if 100 kilos of the defender sitting on top die, 600 of the guys you attack should die. So that means if this were true, they had about 900 to 1,000 people sitting on top on various ridge lines. We should have lost 6,000 people, which was not true. I think we lost about 540 is the figure they say. But say, let's take it at 700 because of the people who died in the hospital later. They lost about 900 and we lost only about 700. Just imagine, that means the entire study of this 1:6 ratio was proved wrong just because of the fact of the kind of brutality of the firepower we used, and also the way in which the Army Aviation and Air Force, the kind of casualty evacuation they did and the kind of support we got. Like in my case, we were sitting on Hamutingla when a shell fell. In fact, I am a very die-hard flyer. I lost some hearing in my left ear, which rendered me permanently unfit for flying. Otherwise, after leaving the army, I had intentions of, joining Pawan Hans or something like that. Anyway, so one of my boys got shelled, and it was so bad that, the moment I saw him, I knew that he would die because, everything was exposed and the blood was just seeping through. I almost bandaged him. And luckily, because I was a pilot, I knew that I could do something. On the Delta 5 net, I could see in a distance there was a helicopter. I spoke to the control and they patched me up to the pilot. And luckily, that pilot was my own course mate with whom I had done the flying training. Guman was his name. So I said, Guman, you need to help me. And Guman brought down the chopper, gave me a reference of 3 kilometers ahead on a tilt. We hovered the chopper, we took this boy, put him in the helicopter, and within 35 minutes he was in the operation theater. He is alive even today. A lot of restrictions, but we could save his life because this was also the work done by the AMC and people like that. So finally, this was all a team effort. I think because of the training given by Indian Army, the resolve we had, we could do that. And I only thank God and my regiment for having given me this opportunity. I mean, like me, so many were given this opportunity to, use all the training which the army gave us, to fight the battle. So this much so for the artillery battle, and I've told you very, very sketchy about because attacks and all will take a lot of time and you need maps, but I'm sure you have understood a little bit as to from the history and from the terrain and from the artillery attacks. Now I think I will hand over to the wing commander, so he will touch about how they targeted precisely the Tiger Hill and other places. So they put the fear of God, literally the fear of God into those guys. Over to the wing commander. Thank you.
Thank you, Sardar sir. Good evening to one and all present here. Firstly, let me honestly tell you, sir, it is courage for a soldier to fight a war. But in my personal opinion, we never fought a war. For the simple reason, you asked me to do an operation with certain restrictions. When you tie my hands, at the same time you want me to eliminate the opponent, it becomes a very tricky proportion. When the op order, when the go-ahead from the government was received on the 11th of May, we were very clearly instructed that you will knock off the infiltrators, give full support to the ground crews, but you cannot cross the line of control. So when you don't permit me to cross the line of control, my movements, my restrictions, flying a high-speed aeroplane gets restricted. So initially, that was the main reason. Though we started moving all our assets, we had taken positions to work in close support to our ground attack team. We have our limitations. And when we got the off order, the operation was called, I don't know, most of them whether they are aware, it was known as Operation Safed Sagar. Operation Vijay was our Kargil, and when we were asked to do the support, it was named as Operation Safed Sagar. And we as a team feel very proud in claiming that this was the first kind of operation which we had undertaken where we used offensive air attack at a height of 18,000 to 20,000 feet above mean sea level. Such kind of operations we have not experienced earlier, to be very honest. And secondly, this was the first time we did utilize and use our precision guided weapons too. Now, when we were given the go-ahead, initially we used the support and the operation of the helicopters because we were not very clueful, as Sada sir and Madan had brought out earlier. We did have lesser information. We were not aware as to how many posts, who all are seated at what vital positions and what kind of weaponry they were having it. Initially, it was thought that the helicopters would be fit enough to go and have hard kills. That's where our attack helicopters of Mi-25 and 35 were pressed into operations. And when you are given restrictions, some of the catch-22s which we initially felt was the infiltrators were good about 5 to 12 kilometers into our post. As such, we have got an order not to cross the line of control. Now, if a fighter has to operate there, the radius of turn which he will be taking would be at least 6 to 8 kilometers. That means if we go closer to the target, we are bound to go closer to the LOC, and the moment we go closer to the LOC, from a high intensity conflict, it may lead into two countries because both are arsenally quite capable, both have their nuclear capabilities, and it would have taken a full-fledged war. So keeping that in mind, we had to play much shorter subsequently when the fighters were asked to carry out the roles. And the aeroplanes which we were also using and the weaponry, as Sada sir has said, 20-21 years back were slightly under par, you can say, but we did have faith in our equipments. Like any soldier, whether it is army, they believe in Namak, Naam and Nishan, and we believe in the Air Force as air warrior, touch the sky with glory. With whatever equipments were given us, our endeavor was to go full motivated and flush out the infiltrators and support the army to march much ahead. Now, one was the limitation of LOC. Number two, we were supposed to be operating at an atmospheric height of 80 to 20,000 feet above mean sea level. The environmental conditions, the attributes of the atmosphere was not very conducive to operate our aeroplanes. The variation in temperature, the air density, the induced drag which you will experience, and when you try to deliver your armaments and weapon, how accurately it would go and hit the target was also slightly on a tricky side. So initially, when the helicopters were held back after we suffered 3 losses, 2 fighters and 1 helicopter in the first 3 days. And for any soldier, when you lose your hard assets, it gives you a jerk. You need to hold your nerves and you need to rework your strategy. When we lost an aeroplane where then Flight Lieutenant Nachiketa ejected out, and in in a way when Squadron Leader Ahuja, who was doing the cap control, close air combat for him, close air support, when he was trying to look out as to where Nachi has ejected, he was shot by the Stinger surface to air missile, where we lost the second aircraft and the first pilot, and when we lost one of our helicopters, which I will subsequently take you on the road map. When we lost an helicopter, it did give us a slight chill in our spine. But we need to take up the challenges. So, spotting target in unfamiliar terrain where we haven't practiced an offensive strike attack earlier. And the last time when we had an operation in this region was way back in 1971 in J&K sector. And after 71, this was the first operation which we did, though we had practiced, but not an full-fledged offensive strike and attack in those terrain. When we found the helicopters were having a tricky challenge because it moves at 180 kilometers per hour, and though he can have a hard crack on the targets, but we did have limited CMDS, that is the countermeasure dispensing system which can drop the flares. We had only, if I'm not mistaken, we only had 5 to 6 of them. And we also did have our armored plate, which is required to shield the front cockpit so that the aircraft does not get damaged. And every time the aeroplanes would be fitted with this, the helicopters, when they were going forward with their 56 mm rocket launchers, here it was very, I can say, an unfortunate thing where the commanding officer himself was supposed to be leading the team from the 129 HU. If I'm not mistaken, Wing Commander Anil Sinha, when he had started for the mission, when his aircraft went unserviceable, he shifted over to the next aeroplane, the standby, which was supposed to be piloted by Squadron Leader Rajiv Purohit. And when that aircraft also did have an engine trouble, the CO finally went into the third aircraft, which was supposed to be piloted by one Flight Lieutenant Kulkarni. Now, when 2 aircraft dropped down, they went with 4 aircraft mission, in which when they started having their hard kill, one of the aircraft which we lost, Squadron Leader Pundi, was not having the CDMS and the armored shield. Other aircraft did drop their shaft and they got away, but this gentleman was knocked off by the Stinger SAM, and that was the third aeroplane in the first 3 days when we had. Having seen this, immediately a complete tactics and method was planned in our war room. Now, what next to do? The helicopter operations was held back. We followed the three main steps towards neutralizing the target. As Sada sir has said, our effort was to get our post back and occupy our territory. So we had to follow the three-step neutralizing target procedure. And to do this, every mission which we fly has to be meticulously planned from the time we strap into the aircraft. A lot of planning does go before that. Here, because the terrain was not very friendly and conducive with our counterpart in the army, we need to do a complete ground study before the pilot would get into the cockpit, go, strike, come back to safety. The first step which we were following was the recce mission. Every time we had to go and clear a particular target, we had to do the recce to ensure how we are going to go for the next strike package. Because when you are going to drop a weapon at 30,000 feet, because the Stingers, the SAM could reach up to 28,000 feet. So keeping another 2,000 feet separation, we were supposed to be operating from 30,000 feet to release our weapons. So we had to do recce to see whether the targets are identified, and it was too tricky at that stage to identify the target and drop the bomb at the right place. It was not the question of just dropping the bomb, but dropping it so that we have the mass destruction for them. We cut off the supply lines and we provide an umbrella cover for our army to move forward without any obstacles. Next was our airstrike, where initially we used the MiG-21 class of an airplane. They had gone, did the recce, back, the inputs are collected, reworked, because the MiG-21 at 21 years back was just having, we were flying with a time stopper and a handheld GPS. So we take the coordinates, we follow the GPS, we see the route position, come back, take the photo, give it for the next missions discussed in the planning room. In stage 2, when we were doing our airstrike missions, the Mirages, the Mirage 2000s were pressed into operation. They met the changes which were required, the success which we were eyeing for, because they had the capability of carrying out the precision laser-guided bomb attacks. They could pinpoint to the exact target with less than a couple of meters error. And once the Mirage were put into the role, their dumps, our target requirement was to cut off their supplies, their ammunition dump, their fuel, the logistics. So these things were getting knocked off by the Mirages, and when they had a great kill over the Tiger Hill, where the infantry battalion of the Pak headquarters which was there were wiped off. Subsequently, after the strike, before we take the next mission, we also had to do the third step, that is the battle damage assessment, because every time we go, we can't lose our costly warheads also. So we do the battle damage assessment and continue this process, and we did achieve a total of 1,600 sorties only by the fighter class, where close to 800 sorties were the strike which we had undertaken. So you can understand the amount of efforts which were required there. And due to this, there was heavy casualty and losses which were faced by our neighboring country, the Parks, and they did not know, or they never even thought that Indian Air Force will be using their air power in such a hostile terrain too. And at this point of time, I would also like to keep you informed that our ground team did intercept their communication, where we did hear very clearly that they were running severe shortage of all the mandatory supplies, food, water, ammunition. They were not even in a position to pick their casualty back for any kind of safety. And the injured could not be lifted to the nearest hospital. And when such things happen, you are actually breaking the back of the enemy. And this was achieved by our Mirage 2000 fleet. And how did this happen? The initial stage, when the army was moving, the Air Force was not dovetailed with them, because it was a ground attack only, and we only wanted, hoping that limited infiltrators and we can flush out. And the scenario, as Sada sir has told, there were more than thousands plus people in various vantage points. It was not easy, and the ridges were as steep as 75 to 80 degree gradient. With all the backpacks, they could have not had an advantage. Here, the point which I would like to emphasize is the post, the people who are defending their or on a defensive attack position are much stronger, and their losses will be 6 to 8 times lesser than a person who is going to be offensive, because he is at a disadvantaged position where we were standing. Pakistanis were having an advantage guarding our, taking our post and firing from the top. So our soldiers would have been a second ducks there. So if you see, the losses should have been much greater to us. But as Sada sir rightly brought out, we only lost 540 soldiers, whereas it was much higher in 4 digits when you compare with the Pakistanis. So the air superiority and the entire favorable air scenario was taken up by the aircraft which were pressed into operations. All the MiG-21, the 23s, the 27, the 25, which carried out the photo recce, the MiG-29s, which has a beyond visual range, was pressed into operation. And of course, as I told you, the Mirage 2000 with LGBs. So all coming together, now having withdrawn the helicopters, they were put into full operations for transportation of shifting the artillery guns, the weapons, the manpower, the casualties. Their role actually got changed. And as a team, this was possible because there were 2 strong teams which were doing meticulous planning in that sector. That was the 15 Corps and the AOC J&K team, which before every mission, there would be a thorough research which should be done as to what is going to be the strategy which we are going to follow. Also, when we had withdrawn the helicopter operations back, because like my counterparts have told already, we did not have a favorable air defense setup in the front. So we would have had a major losses from the helicopter side, which we actually have retrieved, and we have got back our assets. And very high degree of flexibility also was played here by our fighter jets. And I was posted at that time in Avantipur, close to Srinagar. We never had any working time or anything. We were mounting our ORPs around the clock. The operational readiness platform, where our fighters were always ready to get airborne in 2 minutes and lesser time. where the pilot is already strapped and he's only sitting into the cockpit. He's not even sitting in his room when ORP-2 is mounted. And it could have been a long time because depending on the commitment, the ORP would be lowered. It can be lowered to 5 minutes or 15 minutes. If you get a 15 minutes break, it was luxury, which it was never so. We were always on either an ORP-2 or an ORP-5. This way, the Air Force did contribute to their maximum caliber capability, and once the Tiger Hill was cleared, our soldiers equally at every stage, they were given the comfort of moving forward and achieving their various posts. And today, if we are celebrating every year, though we lost about 540 soldiers, Vijay Kargil Divas Day on the 26th, it's hats off to all the brave hearts who have given their valuable support and they have laid their life. And I, as an youngster, feel proud that I did get an opportunity to be an active member throughout these operations, because most of us have only seen a war way back in 1971. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity. Thank you.
Sir, this is Colonel Sadai K. Just before we hand over, Madan?
Yes, sir.
You need to tell them one infantry, because without the infantry, which finally, has victory lying at its feet, the guys who actually climb up and do the job, you need to tell them at least one battle action very quickly, and also tell them the, the loss of officers, that 50:500, and the ratio that is to be known as how much of young leaders we lost.
Sure, sir. Thank you. In this long 1 hour, we spoke in details, gave insight of how the battle looked like in terms of artillery, in terms of air force. As the infantry soldier who stands on the ground with the victory on his feet, I would like to narrate a story of a legend and a superhero, or I would call the bravest of the brave. Is an inspiration for me and for millions of other people who joined army way back in 2000. It is Captain Manoj Kumar Pandey, Paramveer Chakra, from the 1st Battalion of the 11th Gorkha Regiment. I am just narrating the story quickly because every one of us born in the country need to know what an officer means, what an Indian soldier means. So this young officer was born on 25 June 1975 in a very small town in Uttar Pradesh, and his dad was owning a shop. He came from a very low income family, and he was the eldest son. Right from his schooling, his path was very clear. His aim or motto of his life was very clear, that I have to join defense forces and I have to serve this country. So in the course, he was getting schooled in Lucknow, and subsequently he was a NCC candidate. He did well extremely in NCC, and in terms of order of merit, he was adjudged as the best candidate in NCC. And later on, after his +2, a very highly qualified person who would have taken a different path in his life, going into an IIT or a regional engineering college, he decided to take up armed forces as his career, and he wanted to join Indian Army. So there is one question which is posted in the service selection board to every cadet who wants to join army: why do you want to join army? This officer said, I want to win the Paramveer Chakra, that's why I want to join army. Single line answer. And he did it. He is not with us today physically, but his memories, his courage and valor would continue to motivate each and every one of us. I would advise, or I would request each one of you in these tough times of COVID, where every one of us are facing stressful situations in life, be it personal or be it in career. Everybody is facing a very stressful situation. We all need to know about this great hero story. The turning point of the war which sirs all said summed up to one battlefield. It's called Kalabar Heights. This officer was already posted in Siachen Glacier, and after 1.5 years of such a tough terrain and this thing, his battalion 111 Gorkha Rifle was given a peace tenure in Pune. The moment they reached Pune, Kargil war happened, and there was a call for the battalion to move to Kargil immediately because these troops were already acclimatized. This officer had a choice of going on leave, but he chose the other way. He said, it is a time for me to reach Kargil and fight for my country. So he was a platoon commander who was leading 30 men at that time. And Kalabar Heights was a very, very critical and a mission critical peak which was supposed to be captured so that the Pakistan supply lines can be cut off. When we say the supply line is cut off, when they want to retreat or run away, they cannot do it without the Kalabar Heights. That is the kind of criticality we had. This officer was tasked to do that. As sir said, Shrikant sir said, it's a gradient of almost 75 to as high as 90 degrees. You cannot walk, you have to crawl and go. He spoke about the battle load. This officer with his battle load and 30 men decided to take a very unorthodox route. In any military textbook in the world, in any sort of lessons in the world, this was impossible and it was quite dangerous. Forget about being fired or being killed by bullets. There is a larger threat of being killed while climbing only. So he chose that route to surprise the Pakistani enemies who were occupying that post. He started climbing. It was a 14-hour climb by the time he reached almost close to 1 kilometer close to the Kalabar Heights where Pakistanis were holding the post. They fired a tripwire illumination round, which basically lightens up the night. It's like a torchlight. So they saw this officer climbing, and the other post, Pakistanis knew that this post is for them is very, very critical and they cannot lose. So they started firing anti-aircraft guns. This is basically used to fire on an aircraft, but they started firing it on humans. One bullet would be close down to 100, 150, grams of weight, and this big. If I get one bullet on my chest, I'll be into pieces. And the rate of fire was around 1,000 rounds of bullets per minute. That is the amount of fire which came on him and his troop of 30 men. But irrespective of all the odds, he continued climbing. He was slowed down, but he never gave up. He continued climbing. It is very, very clearly evident that he was heading on a suicide mission. He can be shot at any time. Finally, he reached the top from the rear. We are all trying to attack from the front, and he took a treacherous route, and from the rear he went up to the top, and he went and reached the first Pakistani post where he saw two soldiers. With a great presence of mind and with great leadership, he immediately lobbed a grenade and killed those two Pakistani soldiers on the spot. And then he rushed into the second post, second bunker, and that bunker was covered with a camouflage net. It is the one which covers so that the aircraft and all cannot detect them. But he didn't have the time to pick up the rifle and identify the enemy. So what he did, all the Gorkha troops carry a kukri. It's a knife, a Gorkha's knife. He dropped his rifle, he picked up a kukri, a sharp knife, jumped inside to the bunker. He cut off those two Pakistani heads and he killed two soldiers on the spot. And when this all was happening, he and his troops were getting fired continuously. By the time he reached the third spot, he had multiple bullets on his left chest, on his left leg. He was limping, he was profusely bleeding. In any of the civil terms, even in any of the military terms, this particular injury is life-threatening and he has to, at least take a first aid. He refused to do that. He further charged on the third post. He killed two more Pakistanis there. And finally, he just charged onto the fourth post. There are no bullets of Pakistan, no soldier of Pakistan could stop this brave young man who was on his mission to save and to capture the Kalabar Heights. Finally, when he went on to the fourth post, he was shot at his head with a heavy machine gun. This big a bullet. He had multiple shots on his skull. His head was smashed. He had multiple bullets on his chest. He took it with pride. And I would like to highlight one thing here. When he got his head shot, when he was bleeding, when he was about to die, few seconds before he died, he just shouted at his troops. The last command which came from this officer, इनको नहीं छोड़ना है, don't spare them. And then he died. He fell flat, and then the men who saw their beloved officer getting shot and hearing the last command, then the hell broke. Nobody could stop them. Nobody could even think of stopping the soldier. No modern weaponry, nothing could stop him. The Gorkhas went and butchered and recaptured the Kalibar Heights for us. And this became the turning point of the entire Kargil war. Later on, this led to capture of other thing in the Dras and the metallic sector, post in the metallic sector. This officer, when he died, his age was 24. So there is a saying before he left for his climb. He told his commanding officer that if death strikes me, before I go there and prove my blood, I swear I will kill the death. That's the leadership. He led from the front throughout. He lost his life when he was 24, not an age to die. But he was later awarded with the most coveted and the highest gallantry award of the free country, India. That is Paramveer Chakra. No other person would have earned it more than what Captain Manoj Kumar Pandey earned it. I always get into emotions, I get into tears when I really narrate the story. It's an inspiration for all of us. Do hear his story again. Go to YouTube, you will find it's about his biography. We all are undergoing tough times, but imagine the odds which he fought against. Nothing would have stopped a great soldier. And as Sada sir said, I will sum up with the officer to men ratio. Whenever we go on a battlefield, a group of 100 men is led by an officer. So when the number of soldiers die, the officer to men ratio was generally around 1 to 500. But in Kargil war, it was as low as 1 to 100. Many officers, young officers who laid their life, the 540 casualties, the deaths we had, the people who sacrificed their life for our today, were between the age group of 20 to 25. I raised my collar and proclaimed that this war was not won by big strategies, big weapons. Today we speak about Rafale, we speak about bigger aircrafts, spice bombs, hammer and whatnot. But ultimately, the war is won by the men who stand there. And I take this time for each one of you at this end of this call to understand and realize what I'm just giving a sample. There are a lot of other officers and men who had laid their lives and gained Paramveer Chakras and Veer Chakras and Mahavir Chakras. But in the interest of your time, I always narrate the story of Captain Manoj Kumar Pandey. I was in the third year of my college. When I heard this story, it is one prime factor which motivated me to go and join the Indian Army. Salute, JN, and over to you, sir. Sada sir, please take over.
Sada sir, you need to unmute your mic.
Sada sir, unmute your mic, sir.
I think we have come to the end, the three of us. So I will give it back to the host, and they can take it forward. And if there are any questions, we are more than willing to answer.
சார் ரொம்ப நன்றி. நீங்க 3 பேர்கள் உங்களுக்குள்ள அழகாக பிரித்து கொண்டு மிக அழகாக கார்கில் போர் காட்சிகளை எங்கள் கண்முன்னே நிறுத்தியிருக்கிறீர்கள். உங்களுக்கு மிக்க நன்றி. இப்போது பங்கேற்பாளர்கள் இந்த 3 வீரர்களிடமும் சந்தேகங்கள் ஏதேனும் இருந்தால் கேட்கலாம், இல்லை தங்களுடைய கருத்துக்களை தெரிவிக்கலாம்.
Hello sir, I'm audible?
ப்ளீஸ் கேளுங்க.
சார் என்னோட பேர் வந்து பாஸ்கர். சார் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஆஃப் ஆல் தேங்க்யூ மேஜர் மதன் சார், சதாபேட்டர் சார் அண்ட் மக்திகன் சார். உங்களோட எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் காட்டினது ரொம்ப ரொம்ப தேங்க்ஸ். ஸோ ஐ எம் 30 year old சார். ஸோ என்னுடைய அப்பா வந்து லைக் மை ஃபாதர் இஸ் நாட் எனிதிங் அபவுட் திஸ் பிகாஸ் அது மாதிரி ஒரு பிளாட்ஃபார்ம் இல்லை. லைக் ஒரு இந்தியன் ஒரு போஸ்டோட கனெக்ட் பண்ணுறதுக்கு அப்போ பிளாட்ஃபார்ம் இல்லை. பட் நோ வி ஹேவ் அ லாட் ஆஃப் பிளாட்ஃபார்ம்ஸ் லைக் யூடியூப், ட்விட்டர், ஃபேஸ்புக். ஸோ சார் என்னுடைய கொஷின் சொன்னால் ஒய் டோன்ட் யூ come forward and share your experience like சார் மதன் சார் நான் உங்களை ட்விட்டரில் ஃபாலோ பண்ணிட்டே இருக்கேன், என்னோட யூடியூப் வீடியோஸ் நல்லா ஃபாலோ பண்ணிட்டே இருக்கேன். நான் என்னுடைய 1 year கிட் வந்து நான் லைக் அவர் வந்து இப்போ அந்த ஏர்போர்ட் நம்ம ரஃபேல் பார்க்கும்போது அவர் திடீர்னு டிவியில் பார்க்குறாரு. ஹீ இஸ் ஜஸ்ட் 1 year old. ஸோ இட்ஸ் லைக் இன்ஸ்பைரிங்லாம். இப்போ ஒரு 4 years 5 years வரும்போது அப்பா ஐ வாண்ட் டு பிகம் ஏர்போர்ட்ஸ்னு சொல்லும்போது ஐம் வெரி ஹாப்பி. ஓகே இது மாதிரி ஆப்ஷன்ஸ் இருக்குது, யூ ஹேவ் அ லாட் ஆஃப் ஆப்ஷன்ஸ். ஸோ அதுக்கு வந்து இப்போ நீங்கள் ஒரு 50 members கிட்ட நீங்கள் உள்ள விஷயத்தை ஷேர் பண்ணும்போது வை டோன்ட் வி கம் ஆன் எனி சோஷியல் மீடியாஸ் அண்ட் ஷேர் யுவர் தாட்ஸ். ஸோ அது வந்து அடுத்த ஜென்ரேஷன் வந்து இன்ஸ்பயராக இருக்கும் சார். பிகாஸ் என்னோட ஜென்ரேஷன் ஐம் 90s கிட்ஸ், நான் 91 பார்ன் பண்ணேன். பட் எனக்கு வந்து அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு 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 பிளாட்ஃபார்ம் அமையல சார். பிகாஸ் நவ் ஐ ஃபீல் பேட். ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி நீங்கள் ஒரு பிளாட்ஃபார்மில் வந்து உங்களோட இன்ஃபர்மேஷன்ஸோ இல்லை உங்களோட ஈடுபட்டு சொல்லும்போது டெஃபினட்டாக இப்போ நீங்கள் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா மனோஜ் பாண்டே சாரை பற்றி சொல்லும்போது உண்மையிலே ஒரு கூஸ் பம்ப்ஸ் இருந்துச்சு எனக்கு. ஸோ நான் புக்கு பார்க்குறேன். இன்னைக்கு நம்ம வந்து நிறைய விஷயத்துக்கு தேவையில்லாத விஷயத்துக்கு நம்ம கூகுள் பண்ணி போகிறோம். ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி நாட்டுக்காக சாக்ரிஃபைஸ் பண்ணுறவங்களை பற்றி நம்ம நிறைய தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும். ஸோ அது வந்து என்னோட கிட் நாளைக்கு அடுத்த என்னுடைய பையனையும் என்னுடைய பொண்ணையும் நான் வந்து என் நாட்டுக்காக கொடுக்குறேன் அப்படின்னு நான் ரெடி பண்ணும்போது என்னென்ன மாதிரி அதுக்கு வந்து வி வாண்ட் டு கனெக்ட் வித் யூ ஃப்ரீக்வெண்ட்லி சார். தட்ஸ் வாட் ஐ வாண்ட் டு ரைட் ஃப்ரம் மீ. வி வாண்ட் டு கனெக்ட் வித் யூ ஃப்ரீக்வெண்ட்லி. ஸோ அதுக்கு நீங்கள் என்ன மாதிரி ஸ்டெப்ஸ் எடுத்தீங்க? பிகாஸ் ஐ டோன்ட் நோ இது என்னென்ன மாதிரி எனக்கு வந்து சின்ஸ் ஐ எம் ஐடி, நான் ஐடியில் இருக்கேன், எனக்கு என்னென்ன டெக்னாலஜி இருக்குன்னு தெரியும். பட் ஹவு டு ஐ ரீச் யூ சார்?
தேங்க்யூ பாஸ்கர். ரொம்ப நல்ல கேள்வி. இதை தான் நாங்களும் ட்ரை பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம். ஸ்ரீகாந்த் சார், சவா சார், கர்னல் தியாகராஜன், நிறைய பேர் வந்து ட்ரைங் டு ரீச் அவுட் டு த பீப்புள். ஏன்னா பப்ளிக் வந்து நம்மளோட இதுக்கு வந்து நிறையா தெரியணும். ஒரு எக்ஸாம்பிள் சொல்லணும்னா வந்து நீங்கள் 90s கிட், நான் 80s கிட். என்னோட ஜென்ரேஷனில் வந்து என் கூட ட்ரைனிங் பண்ண 180 கேடட்ஸ் போட்டியில் வந்து ஒரு 11 பேர் 10 பேர் நம்ம ஊரில் இருந்திருந்தாங்க தமிழ்நாட்டில் இருந்து. இப்போ அதே ரெப்ரஸன்டேஷன் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு 3-4 தான் வராங்க. இது வந்து பியாண்ட் பேட்ரியாட்டிசம், பியாண்ட் இது வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இது ஐடி இந்த எல்லா செக்டரை விட வந்து இட் கிவ்ஸ் யூ கரியர், இட் கிவ்ஸ் யூ லைஃப். இது ஒரு மிகப்பெரிய ஒரு கரியரும் ஒரு லைஃப் உங்களுக்கு கொடுக்கும். இதை வந்து ஃபார்மலைஸ் பண்ண ட்ரை பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம். நானும் ஒரு ஏன்னா இப்போ நாட் ஃப்ரம் மீடியா, அதனால் வந்து ஒரு யூடியூப் சேனல் ஆரம்பித்து அதுக்காக எக்ஸ்க்ளூசிவாக ரன் பண்ணுறதுக்கு வந்து அதுக்கு உண்டான ஸ்கில் செட்ஸ், அதுக்கு உண்டான டைம் அண்ட் எஃபர்ட் வந்து இட் ரிக்வயர்ஸ் அ லாட். பட் அதுக்காக இப்போது வந்து 2-3 சேனல்ஸ் நான் பேசிக்கிட்டு இருக்கேன். ஒன்ஸ் அது ஃபார்மலைஸ் ஆனவுடனே இப்போ இதே ஸ்டோரி நான் கேப்டன் மனோஜ்குமார் பாண்டே, பரமேர் சக்கர் அவரோட ஸ்டோரியை சொன்னேன். இந்த மாதிரி வந்து நம்மளோட ஹீரோஸ், ரியல் ஹீரோஸோட ஸ்டோரியை வந்து நம்ம பிஏபி மூலிமா அவங்களோட நல்ல ஒரு இனிஷியேட்டிவ் இது. அட்லீஸ்ட் 50 பேர் நாளைக்கு யூடியூப்ல பார்த்தீங்கன்னா வந்து பிஏபி டைரக்டர் அவங்களோட இதுதான் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணியிருக்கோம். இதுக்கு முன்னாடி ஒன்றுமே இல்லாமல் இருந்துச்சு, நீங்கள் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணியிருக்கோம். இதே மாதிரி ப்ரைவேட் சேனல்ஸ்லையும் நம்ம பேசி அவங்களையும் ஆன்போர்ட் எடுத்து இதை ஒரு சீரியஸாக வந்து கொண்டு போகிறதுக்கு ஒரு இனிஷியேட்டிவ்ஸ், பேபி ஸ்டெப்ஸ் நம்ம எடுத்திருக்கோம். மேபி இன்னும் ஒரு 4 to 5 months மேக்ஸிமம் இந்த இயர் எண்டுக்குள்ள ஒரு ஃபார்மலைஸ்டு சேனல், எல்லா இன்ஃபர்மேஷன், ஒரு ஆர்மி எப்படி ஜாயின் பண்ணுறது, ஏர்ஃபோர்ஸ் எப்படி ஜாயின் பண்ணுறது, பேராமிலிட்டரி ஃபோர்ஸஸ், பிஏஎஸ்எஃப், சிஏஎஸ்எஃப், இந்த மாதிரி ஃபோர்ஸஸ்லாம் எப்படி ஜாயின் பண்ணுறது, இதுக்கு உண்டான மோட்டிவேஷனல் ஸ்டோரிஸ், ரியல் லைஃப் ஸ்டோரிஸ், இதை பற்றி வந்து வில் வெரி சூன் ஹேவ் அ பிளாட்ஃபார்ம். நாட் டூ லேட், கொஞ்சம் லேட் ஆகிட்டோமோ, பட் வித் ஆல் த கலெக்டிவ் எஃபர்ட்ஸ் இங்கே இருக்க கவர்மெண்ட் சைட்லேருந்து நம்ம இன்னைக்கு ஒரு ஆல்மோஸ்ட் ஒரு பெரிய ப்ரோக்ராமே பண்ணியிருக்காங்க பிஏபியில், ஆல் தேங்க்ஸ் டு பிஏபி. இதே மாதிரி நம்ம வந்து ப்ரைவேட்லேயும் நம்ம இருக்க யூடியூப் நல்ல சேனல்ஸ்லாம் உள்ளே கொண்டு வந்து ப்ளஸ் பப்ளிக் மீடியா, பிரிண்ட் மீடியா உள்ளே கொண்டு வந்து இதை ஃபார்மலைஸாக வந்து நம்ம எடுத்துகிட்டு போவோம். தேங்க்ஸ் ஃபார் யுவர் பாயிண்ட் பாஸ்கர்.
Sure, sir. Thank you. And sir, one more question. Sorry, நானே கேட்டது பண்ணிட்டேன் sir. I have a couple of questions. So, my second question, sir. Sir, இப்போ அதர் கண்ட்ரீஸ்லாம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா லைக் அந்த ஒரு மிலிட்ரி ட்ரில்ன்றது அந்த ஒரு சின்ன வயசுலேருந்தே அந்த குழந்தைங்களுக்கு லைக் அந்த ஸ்கூல்லேருந்தே ஒரு சில ட்ரில்ஸ் வந்து கொடுப்பாங்க. ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி இஸ் பாசிபிள் டு அது மாதிரி இங்கே நடைமுறைக்கு சாத்தியமா? லைக் இஸ் இட் பாசிபிள் இன் இந்தியா? More than gaining exposure to the military drill, the kids also know about the discipline.
இதுக்கு ஒரு சிஸ்டம் இருக்கு. We have NCC, NSS and sports. NCCல வந்து 5th standardல வந்து சேரலாம். கிட்ஸ் வந்து ஸ்டார்ட் NCCs வந்து எல்லா ஸ்கூல்லையும் இருக்கா அப்படின்னா வந்து எல்லா ஸ்கூல்லையும் இல்லை. பட் the school has to come out. இதில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா வந்து ஸ்கூல்ஸ் வரணும். அவங்க முன் வந்து அந்த NCC டீமை ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணணும். ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணி அவங்க பண்ணாங்கன்னா ஆர்மி, நேவி, ஏர்ஃபோர்ஸ் வந்து ஃபுல் சப்போர்ட் கொடுப்பாங்க. இந்த என்சிசி ட்ரைனிங் நம்ம கல்ச்சரை உள்ள கொண்டு வரும்போது we get a better generation and we get a better disciplined kids. அவங்களுக்கு வந்து சின்ன வயசுலேருந்து வந்து அந்த டஃப்னஸ் தெரியும், அந்த டிசிப்ளினோட இம்பார்ட்டன்ஸ் தெரியும், எல்லாமே தெரியும். பட் இது எல்லா ஸ்கூல்லையும் வந்து இருக்கா அப்படின்னா வந்து நம்ம எஜுகேஷன் சிஸ்டமே வந்து வி ஆர் மோர் ஃபோக்கஸ்ட் ஆன் மார்க்ஸ் வாட் வி கெட் இன் 10th and +2. இப்போதான் வந்து கொஞ்சம் டைவர்சிஃபை ஆகி ஓகே ஸ்போர்ட்ஸும் ஒரு வேணும், அந்த ஆல்ரவுண்ட் ஒரு இது ஹெல்த்தை விட்டுட்டு நம்ம வந்து வெறும் படிப்பை மட்டும் படிச்சுட்டு இருந்தோம்னா அந்த படிப்பு எதுக்குமே கிடையாது. ஸோ வி ஹாவ் இன் திஸ் ஸ்கூலிங் சிஸ்டம் ஆல்சோ. இது வந்து என்சிசி இப்போ அவைலபிளாக இருக்கு, என்எஸ்எஸ் அவைலபிளாக இருக்கு, பாரதிய ஸ்கவுட்ஸ்ன்னு சொல்லக்கூடிய அதுவும் நமக்கு அவைலபிளாக இருக்கு. பட் இது எல்லா இடத்துலையும் அவைலபிளாக இருக்காங்கன்னா கிடையாது. ஒரு அவுட் ஆஃப் 50 schools 1 school will have என்சிசி. This also has to go up, but that's a formal program which the Indian government has.
Thank you, sir. Sir, one more question, sir.
பாஸ்கர், நீங்க உங்க முகத்தையும் காட்டலாமே எங்களுக்கு.
Okay. Oh, sorry, இப்போ தெரியுதா? சார் தேங்க்யூ ஸோ மச் சார் மதன் சார். பிகாஸ் நான் உங்களை யூடியூப்ல பார்த்துட்டு இருப்பேன். ஐ யூஸ் டு ஃபாலோ லாட் ஆஃப் சேனல்ஸ். நீங்கள் கொடுத்த கேள்வி ஃபர்ஸ்ட் யூடியூப்ல போயிட்டு உங்கள் பேர் போட்டு இன்னைக்கு என்ன இன்டர்வியூ கொடுத்துருக்கீங்க அப்படின்னு நான் பார்த்துட்டு இருக்கேன். கீப் ஆன் வாட்ச். அண்ட் சார், என்னுடைய ஃபைனல் கொஷின் சார், நான் வந்து சைபர் செக்யூரிட்டியில் வந்து ஒர்க் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன். லைக் கைண்ட் ஆஃப் டிஃபென்ஸ் பெனட்ரேஷன் டெஸ்டிங்ஸ் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு நான் ஒரு கம்பெனி ஐடி செக்யூரிட்டி ரிலேட்டட் நான் ஒர்க் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன். ஸோ இப்போ நம்ம வந்து லைக் யூ டாக்கிங் அபவுட் த ரஃபேல்ஸ், ஸோ எல்லாமே பண்ணுவோம். ஹவு அபவுட் தட் சைபர் அட்டாக் சார்? ஸோ அதுக்கு வந்து எப்படி சார், வாட் இஸ் நோ வாட் கைண்ட் ஆஃப் தட் சைபர் அட்டாக்?
Can I take?
Yes, please, sir, please.
I'm not a very high-tech computer savvy guy, but I've been in electronic warfare. I'm an electronic warfare specialist, communication and non-communication. And by virtue of being a pilot, been exposed to a lot of this hacking, and we have a lot of codes right from the 60s. I can only assure you that it is not visible, it is not known, but the level of formidability or the strength of any cyber attack in services is well contained, because we are very, very professional officers. Basically, when he finishes a BTech or something, he's still a baby. After that, the kind of drilling and the training which the Air Force, the Army, or what kind of courses they go through is at a much, much higher platform than what is available commercially. But a lot of things cannot be shared in this platform. One is that we are not dated, and the second thing is for the part of the national security. I am sure Commander Srikanth would agree with me from being out from the Air Force. Hello. Does that answer my question?
Yes, partially, sir.
Are you asking something on civil defense cooperation or something you want to know about the cyber security, or what exactly? Give me the exact question for the answer.
Okay, sir. So my exact question is like how critical our cyber infrastructure is.
How critical?
Yes, critical. It's a critical, because I'm also part of a cyber security. My work is completely belongs from cyber security. So we are working here to defend the private firms from the outside attacks as well as the threats.
See, those days of verbal orders or written orders are all gone. And if you see Navy is in a totally different world altogether. They don't communicate at all. They're always at signal strength, or they're always sent. It is only by codes and some very heavily encrypted stuff where they get their orders, because they have submarines, they have destroyers all over the sea. Same as with the Air Force. In fact, the noisiest of all the three will be Army, because we are more towards the tactical battlefield on the ground where the ranges are not much. But if you see the Air Force, you see the AWACS, the warning systems, the airborne warning systems, of the Navy, they are totally on the electronic media, and they have a very, very strong firewalling, because if they don't have, then everything is compromised. So criticality, confidentiality is of the highest order, and to that's what I was saying, the levels of training are very, very hard, and up there.
Okay, sir. Thank you. You answered. Thank you.
Shivakumar, there are two questions. There are two questions in the chat box. You can kindly read out.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, kindly read out the questions.
Sir, can government make the conscription or at least military training compulsory for everyone?
Can I answer this question?
Yes, sir.
I can answer this question. இதுல வந்து 130 கோடி பேர் இருக்காங்க. ஓகே, நம்ம கண்ட்ரியில ரஃப்லி, and the strength of the armed forces is 12 lakhs. It is lesser than the Indian Railways. Air Force is about 2 lakhs and Navy is about 1 lakh. So we have about 15 lakhs. And we need jawans from the age of 17 to 35. So it is not physically possible to have compulsory training and not required.
There was another question. There was another question. Yeah, Mr. Goenka, Mr. Goenka, sir.
One doubt, how can we? Yes, sir, I have one doubt. How can we as civilians to fight this new age information war with China, Pakistan or anti-nationals? Even how can I help you?
Who will take this question?
Since it is pertaining to PAB, let me say, PAB works on providing the right information to the people through the media and informing them about the situation in the country. And one thing which you can probably do is keep yourself informed about the information which comes through the media and apply, the rationality and see whether there's misinformation that comes out in the social media. As information comes in, there's a lot of misinformation also which keeps pouring in, So to get your doubts clear, there is something called fact check unit also of PIB, where you can probably raise your doubts and then it is clear. So in that way, PIB serves in giving the information, and definitely you as a citizen of our country would be a big help in disseminating the right information to people around you and your field of influence. And one more thing I would like to talk to Madan, Major Madan and all the two other dignitaries who spoke in this thing. The effort was completely taken by my colleagues, the ROB today. And PIB also joined hands, and we will be joining hands to also disseminate this information to the media. But my colleagues in ROB, Regional Outreach Bureau, Mr. Kamaraj and all his colleagues, are completely responsible for arranging all of you to speak on this occasion. And I really feel so happy that these minutes of my hearing you has really inspired many people, including me. It really goes goosebumps when we hear about this supreme sacrifice of Captain Manoj Pandey. So these type of things should be often brought into the media. And as you were talking, you mentioned about how best PIB can probably help you. We are always with you, sir. I will get in touch with you, and then we will definitely do everything possible to give the right information to the people and inspire them, and also take this good message across to inspire many more youngsters to join this army and the defense forces. We will definitely be able to join hands to help you out on this. We are with you in this mission, and so happy to hear all three of you. Thank you.
ரொம்ப நன்றி சார். PIB டைரக்டர் சார் நன்றி. அடுத்து ஏதாவது கேள்விகள் இருக்குங்களா? பங்கேற்பாளர்கள் தனிப்பட்ட கேள்வியை தவிர பொதுவான கேள்விகளை கேட்கலாம். ஏதாவது கேள்விகள் இருக்கா?
Sir, Madan sir, Bhaskar here again. Sir, how do I reach you again? If we do, can you share your mail ID or can I do it personally, sir? Madan sir?
Yeah. Now we will share his contact. My email ID is there. I have given in the chat box my email ID. So you can give a mail that we will share the contact.
Okay, thank you.
After taking his permission. Okay? Or you can share your number also so that the Major Madan will speak.
Sure, sir. So share my contact with you, sir. So congrats.
Yeah. I have given my mail ID, Vedanta1979, myself, the chat director, RO. So I will get you connected.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
நன்றி பங்கேற்பாளருடைய கேள்விகளுக்கு நன்றி. இப்போது நிறைவாக மண்டல மக்கள் தொடர்பு அலுவலகத்தினுடைய இணை இயக்குனர் மதிப்பிற்குரிய காமராஜ் அவர்கள் தொகுப்புரையாக தன்னுடைய கருத்துக்களை வழங்கி நிகழ்ச்சியை நிறைவு செய்வார்கள். இப்போது திரு காமராஜ் அவர்கள்.
Dear friends, honorable veterans of Agilwa, Major Madan sir, I take this opportunity to actually express our thanks on this memorable occasion. We were just listening to such a story, but they are all not simple stories as we narrate in our daily life. Here we had two great veterans who survived to say us what they have seen, what they have witnessed in front of them when everything else was against them in their life. So it was their duty, they took it as their duty to fight. We were all here on a fine afternoon sitting here at the comfort of our drawing room listening to these stories. So how does that matter to us after 21 years? How does that matter to anyone who is coming up for 50 years? India has witnessed major wars. Lastly, the Kargil, as far as mentioned. So what is now taken? So they survived to say these stories. And what is it in us that makes us go goosebumps when we listen to Captain Pandey's story? It's heroic. How can when we stay sure of dying, can anyone face death? Can anyone have guts to say, come what may, I need Army Chakra, if it costs me death, welcome. In fact, there is his own diary says, his own diary has that beautiful word. Some gold are so worthy, it is glorious even to fail. So he pursued his goal and he won it. And when we listen to the gentleman's story, we are getting the tears, we are getting emotional. What is that causing us to go emotional? It is the oneness feeling that is we are Indians. So that Indianness, that oneness feeling is taking us, it is giving us a lot of energy to do our best in our life, to do our best in our career. Just one thought, as even recently in Mann Ki Baat address, our honorable PM has mentioned, nation above all, nation above all. So nation comes first before anything in life, and we have it in our mind. We hear these great people who are among us today just to regenerate ourselves, reinvigorate ourselves, and rededicate ourselves to the goals of our life, the goals of our country, and we will always look ahead like Netaji Subhash Bose, like Captain Pandey, like the great officer, war veterans whom we have met today. Let us take it ahead. We will win in our life. We will make India great as everyone does, including Dr. Kalam. We will make India the best country. Thank you. one thing in their mind. Immediately they agreed. Yes, we will come to the webinar because we want people to join army, we want people to join navy, and that is the spirit. Even after retiring from the services, they are still behind to catch us, to make us do our best for the country. And let's salute their bravery, let's salute their energy, let's all put our hands together to these wonderful beings on earth. Thanks everyone, thank you.
Guru Babu sir, can I have a word with you straight away, sir?
Yes, you can talk, sir.
Firstly, it was pleasure when you got me introduced and you spoke about yourself too. I am from KV Sambaram. I studied in that school, and the main motivating factors were the Kirans which used to fly there with the HPTs, as you rightly said. Whether you are in classroom or in the sports ground, the noise pulls you, not your class teacher. You have a passion. So that passion needs to be driven. Why I wanted to tell you this is, in my back end my career, when I took a VRS, I was in the service selection board. I used to pick students, interview them, being trained by DIPR. I found the awareness was lacking. Most of the people, as one Mr. Ganesh was claiming, people do not come towards the forces for reasons better known to them and their parents. They all think if you step into the uniform service, that's the end. It's not so. We have our chief who has served for 40 odd years. So it's actually an adventure and a challenge which we people look forward. And I am based in Chennai only. You can use my contact. You can tell the children post my VRS. I've only been working in the educational institutions because this is the area where I can target the students to come and join the force and serve the nation. So please utilize the contacts, and if any child, any children who are keen, they can always come forward, talk to us, and we will guide and take care of it. Thank you very much, sir. It was pleasure and honor having interacted with all of you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
அனைவருக்கும் நன்றி சார். குறிப்பாக 3 வீரர்கள், கர்னல் சதா பீட்டர், விங் கமாண்டர் ஸ்ரீகாந்த், மேஜர் மதன்குமார் 3 பேரும் நேரம் ஒதுக்கி அரிய கருத்துக்களை, அனுபவங்களை பகிர்ந்து கொண்டமைக்கு மிக்க நன்றி. நிகழ்ச்சியை ஏற்பாடு செய்த பத்திரிகை தகவல் அலுவலகத்தினுடைய இயக்குநருக்கும் மண்டல மக்கள் தொடர்பு அலுவலகத்தினுடைய இணை இயக்குநருக்கும் என்னுடைய நெஞ்சார்ந்த நன்றிகள். நிகழ்ச்சியிலே அழைப்பை ஏற்று கலந்து கொண்ட பலதரப்பட்ட பங்கேற்பாளர்களுக்கும் என்னுடைய நன்றியினை மகிழ்வோடு தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கின்றோம். இது ஒரு தொடக்கமாக எடுத்துக்கொண்டு நாம் இந்த நாட்டுப்பற்றையும் ராணுவ சேவையையும் தொடர்ந்து நாம் முன்னெடுத்துச் செல்வதற்காக தயாராக இருக்கின்றோம். அனைவரும் ஒன்று சேர்வோம், நம்முடைய தேசப்பற்றை வலுவாக்குவோம். நன்றி. நிகழ்ச்சி நிறைவுறுகிறது. பங்கேற்பாளர்கள் நீங்கள் அந்த சாட் பாக்ஸில் கொடுத்துருக்கிற லிங்கை கிளிக் பண்ணீங்கன்னாக்கா உங்களுக்கு சர்டிபிகேட், சர்டிபிகேட் கிடைக்கும். தேவைப்படுபவர்கள் அந்த லிங்கை பயன்படுத்திக் கொள்ளுங்கள். நன்றி.
And it's a party which is